First thing we need to talk about is, of course, this mass shooting which happened in Maine. We are the only country on Earth which seems to have a regular problem with mass shootings like this. I mean, there are other countries out there that actually do have more death by firearms than the United States. In particular, Brazil has the most death by firearms of anywhere in the world. But the United States is a pretty close contender. Last I checked, I think we're third in line. It goes something like Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, then the United States. So we're not far behind there in the running. As far as first world countries go, that is to say, the developed countries in the West, I kind of don't like using that term first world. But, the developed countries in the West that have a higher standard of living and stuff like that, places like Japan, Western Europe, and so on, Canada, that kind of thing, we are definitely number one in firearms death when it comes to those countries. And in no small part of this, it's because it's incredibly easy to get your hands on a weapon here. I mean, first off, we're the only one of those countries which actually has written into our constitution that you have a right to own deadly weapons of war. Let's not forget about that. It is an antiquated provision, in my opinion, that should have been revised a long time ago. The reason it was there was so that, at the time, large part of the North American continent was an untamed wilderness filled with wild animals and also hostile tribes. Let's not forget that the Constitution was written by white people for white people, and they didn't take the wants or desires of Native Americans into account when writing it. Native American peoples were basically the enemy to the early American settlers and colonials, that kind of thing. So that was the other thing. Then, of course, there's also the reason why the right wingers say that we all are guaranteed a firearm, and that's because we are supposed to rise up and take over the government. And we're supposed to use our small arms to do it. And something that very well may have been one of the motivations of our founding fathers. Not gonna lie, because it's true. Back then in England and France, stuff like that, it was part of the sort of medieval tradition that the peasantry was not allowed to have weapons. And specifically for that reason, because they were always afraid that the plebs were going to rise up and take over and depose the king or whatnot, so you were never allowed to have a weapon. Propaganda from the Heritage Foundation notwithstanding, that very well may have been one of the reasons why the Founding Fathers decided that everybody has the right to have a weapon, just to defend themselves and then to also defend themselves from the government. Problem is, times have changed, whereas 200-300 years ago, an armed citizenry with little more than muskets and rifles, maybe the occasional cannon, could actually take on a world government and possibly win through a popular uprising. That's not so much the case anymore. Nowadays, you don't really stand a chance with your small arms against a well-funded, high-tech, modern military, especially like the United States, that can just basically drone strike you from orbit or whatever. Like, what are you going to do standing around with your AR-15s or whatever? You're not going to be able to do very much more than basically terrorism, asymmetrical warfare. But that's basically what whenever you hear that term, asymmetrical warfare, it means terrorism, basically. You'll just have to. It's not the same. The days of an armed citizenry rising up and forming into a citizens' army, taking on the government, is just no. That's not a thing that is possible anymore. At least in the United States, in the Western nations, that's just not a thing. You know, you may be able to do that in some places in Asia or South America or Africa where they don't have things like drones or whatnot. But you're not going to be able to do it here. Your homegrown militia are not going to be able to take on the United States government. You know, from the backwoods of Alabama and shit. It's just not going to happen. So I kind of find that reasoning to be a little antiquated there, in my opinion. Anyway, getting back to what actually happened. Went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I don't give a shit. It's my stream. I'm going to say what I want. A madman who had easy access to firearms went out and murdered 18 people. His name was Robert Card. He was 40 years old. The thing about this guy is that he was an actual firearms instructor by trade, had 20 years of experience in the United States military. The guy was a veteran. And he was part of the Army Reserves, so not only was he well trained in his firearm usage, that's what he did for a living, right? Went out last Wednesday to a bowling alley and shot 7 people to death. 6 men, 1 woman. I believe there are some children that were injured there because it was children's night at the bowling alley. Then he drove down the road down to a restaurant called now if I can pronounce this, Shemingi's Bar and Grill, name of the restaurant. Shot and killed another 8 people there. Another 3 people died later on afterwards from their wounds in local area hospitals. The thing about this, right, is that we in the United States kind of numb to this kind of thing now, aren't we? I mean, it was pretty bad there for a little while. We used to get these mass shootings once in a blue moon. I think the very first one I remember ever seeing was back in the 90s, and it was about a guy who went into a Jewish preschool and killed 17 children, if I remember right, just machine gunned them to death or whatever. White supremacist guy. And for a little while, it seemed like, okay, we had some problems. Then there was Columbine and all that. You know, that happened. That was pretty bad. And now it just seems like, these things just happen every couple of weeks. Every couple of weeks, there's just another mass shooting. And, the way I can say that we're numb to it is that people they've already stopped talking about it. This just happened last Wednesday. It was about a week, and then there was a 2-day manhunt where they finally caught the guy. So it's been a little over a week as of the time of this recording since this massacre was perpetrated by this insane person, and we're already just not talking about it anymore. It's just not on the headlines in the news. We're at that phase now where the news people are sort of wrapping up the stories. Maybe they can get another 24 or so hours out of it, but then that's it. And then the story is dead because we've moved on. Most likely moved on to the next fucking mass shooting. I don't mean to be sounding cynical here, but it happens so often and nobody does anything about it. And there's no reason for us to believe that anybody's going to do anything about it now. So let's get a little bit more into who this guy was, because that's the one thing that does happen every time there's a mass shooting, is that everybody tries to blame everybody else for the reasons why this shit happened. Every single time, it always becomes politicized now whenever there's a mass shooting. That's just what happens. It's politics just as much as anything else. These poor people who have been murdered again are now being exploited for political gain. And then it'll go away. So what do we know about this guy, Robert Card? Well, we know that he was an insane conservative once again. That's the thing about this. It's you could just sort of get out a dartboard, right? And you can play mass shooter bingo. And sure enough, because there's always assumptions that one can make when it comes to mass shooters. They're either racist, they're either mentally ill, they're racist, they're radicals of some sort. And usually That means that they're right-wing radicals of some kind. Either they're white supremacists, either they're racist, either they're conspiracy theorists, something to that end. And sure enough, this guy, Robert Card, fits the bill. He seems to fit all of those things. Right, so first off, the guy seemed to have genuine mental health issues. I want to bring this over here so that you guys can see it. Family of Maine shooting suspect says his mental health had deteriorated rapidly. We're not going to actually watch that. Nope, stop. Okay, here we go. But we'll read a little bit of this article. This is from NBC News. The family of the Army reservist accused of fatally shooting more than a dozen people in Lewiston, Maine, alerted police and military officials that he was experiencing an acute mental health episode before the Wednesday night massacre, his sister-in-law said. Robert Card, 40, a firearms instructor and longtime member of the Army Reserve, began to hear voices that were saying horrible things about him a couple of months ago when he was fitted for high-powered hearing aids, said Katie Card, who is married to his brother. As an aside, I can pretty much guarantee you 100% that somebody out there, the fact that this guy had hearing aids, somebody out there is going to create and spread around a conspiracy theory that this dude was actually receiving hidden messages from his hearing aids. I'm calling it right now. I bet you with $1 million by this time next week, I will be able to find somebody out there, someone posting on Facebook or posting on Twitter, something to that effect, that this guy Robert Card was a quote-unquote targeted individual who was being beamed secret messages from his CIA fucking handlers or some shit. I guarantee it. Anyway, let's move on. He was picking up voices he had never heard. She told NBC News. His mind was twisting them around. He's humiliated by the things he thought were being said. Katie Card said the family did their best to reassure Robert Card that the comments were not real, including by verifying with some of the people he claimed made the remarks. But she said it turned into a manic belief. He was just very set in his belief that everyone was against him all of a sudden, she said. Robert Card, who was still at large Thursday, is accused of killing at least 18 people and injuring many others at a bar and bowling alley, police said. Of course, they have since found the guy. He shot himself in the head, killed himself. So this is before he was actually found. His sister-in-law says the family reached out to police and his Army Reserve base as they got increasingly concerned in the last couple of months. Her husband went back and forth with the Army. They were following up on it too, but it's never been someone we thought would actually do anything. The Army confirmed Robert Card's status with the Reserve, but it did not directly address the family's claim that the loved ones had shared their concerns before the attack. Two senior law enforcement officials said Card's unit commander sent him to receive psychiatric treatment this summer after they became concerned about his threats he made to the base and his claims that he was hearing voices. So that's the other thing. This guy actually made a threat to the Army base out where he was. He lived in Maine, and it was Saco, Maine is where the Army base was. And he apparently made threats to that base that he was going to go shoot it up. And nobody did anything about it. Crazy person. Firearms instructor has access to many lethal weapons, even makes threats that he's going to go shoot and kill people, and is complaining about hearing voices in his head. Nobody did anything about it. You would think all of those things together, somebody would go in and take away the guy's guns. You would think that would happen. In other countries on this planet, that's what would have happened. We don't do that here. Why not? Why not? I don't understand this. We could read a little bit more here. Card spent about 2 weeks undergoing inpatient psychiatric treatment and was released, the official said. It's not clear what further action was taken. Apparently, no further action was taken because he then went off after his 2 weeks of treatment and murdered 18 people. We take matters like this very seriously. And our primary concern is ensuring that all legal and appropriate actions are taken in accordance with our commitment to upholding the highest standards of conduct among our soldiers and civilian personnel. Apparently, they didn't take it seriously enough. every time that there's a mass shooting, your conservative friends always try to blame it on mental illness. They always say, "Oh, well, the guy was obviously crazy, blah 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 blah." And why do they blame it on mental illness? Because they don't want to actually do anything about it. Because conservatives are beholden to the gun lobby, and also let's not forget their own constituents, who are very very crazy, insane gun fucking people, and will vote them out if they do anything about this problem of crazy people having guns. If they do anything about this problem about there being too many goddamn guns in the country, conservative politicians will lose their jobs. So we can't just blame it on the politicians. It is the conservative electorate who are also enabling all of this shit. They're the ones who are propagating this shit by fucking voting in these crazy people that won't fucking do anything about there being, guns in the hands of insane people in this country. So let's keep that in mind. So what do? So they blame it on mental illness. Well, here's an example of somebody who actually did have mental illness. And did they do anything about it? No, right? Because here's the other thing. Conservative politicians don't actually give a shit about mental illness. Right? They use it as an excuse so that they don't have to do anything about guns. But what is the conservative proposal for making sure that everybody has proper mental health in this country? Can you name anything from any conservative politician out there right now? What about Ted Cruz? Ted Cruz is always saying every time there's a mass shooting, he always blames it on mental health. What about Marjorie Taylor Greene? She's used the same fucking line too. Oh, it's about mental health, blah, 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 right? What about fucking Lauren Boebert? She said the same fucking thing. What about Matt Gaetz? He said the same shit too. It's a mental health problem. That's what they all fucking say. Well, what are they doing about the mental health problem then? Okay, I agree. It's a mental health problem. It's definitely part of it. I mean, I think the fact that everybody has a fucking gun is probably a bigger part of it. But yes, that is part of it, right? So what is their solution to address the mental health issue in the United States? They don't have a solution, right? Because they don't actually care about mental health. They're just using it as an excuse so they don't have to do anything about guns. Well, here's a case where it's like, yes, okay, they were correct. The guy was crazy. What are you going to do about it, right? He had mental health issues. What are you going to do about it? Hey, how about this? How about if you're bona fide crazy and you're like getting treatment for your mental health issues and you've threatened to shoot up an army base and you're telling your friends and family that you're hearing voices, how about we take away your fucking guns? How about that? Right? There's a solution, right? And hey, it matches up, hey, the mental health thing. Can we do something about that, please? I don't, and no, every conservative you talk to is going to turn around and say that I'm violating the Second Amendment. Blah, blah, blah. I'm violating the Second Amendment. Well, what about your fucking right, your right to not get shot to death in a bowling alley? What about that, right? And, oh, well, if you could do it to them, they could do it to you. Well, yes, that's correct, right. If I am hearing voices in my head, I would hope somebody would come over to my house and confiscate whatever firearms I have until I'm certified healthy from a doctor. And not just 2 weeks of fucking outpatient, treatment. What the fuck kind of shit is that? 2 weeks, oh yeah, you're fine. Okay, whatever. Lay down, look at the ink blot. Okay, you don't see anything? Okay, you're fine. Okay, go ahead home. Feel free to blow away anybody you want. What kind of fucking bullshit is that, folks? I just want somebody to fucking do something, right? Anyway, here's the thing, though, folks, right? They always say, okay, it's mental health, blah, 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 blah. I'm not so sure how much I buy that, okay? Because, yes, it is true. Only a crazy person would go out and shoot 18 people to death in a bowling alley in a restaurant. Yes, all right, I agree, right? Problem is with that, the problem is with blaming all mass shootings on mental health, is that there are literally millions upon millions of people in this country with mental health issues who don't go out and murder 18 people in a restaurant and a bowling alley. There's millions upon millions of people in this country who do have mental health issues of one kind or another, who are just normal, ordinary people trying to live their life and just, need help, right? So trying to say that every single person with a mental health disability issue is a potential kill crazy madman is not the case, because it's not true. It just propagates a stereotype that, that of the crazy insane person with a gun who's going to go out and shoot. No, it's not that's not accurate. Okay. There's another component which we always seem to just gloss over, and that's the fact that people with these health issues, they're very easily influenced by right-wing radical people, and they become radicalized. That is definitely a big part of the equation, is that when you're in these altered mental states where you're hearing voices and stuff like that, just seems to be that you're more easily influenced by things like radical right-wing hate speech. Reactionary hate speech, I guess is what I should say. So when you're a little loopy to begin with, and then you turn on the TV and you see Toilet Paper USA or something, right? Charlie Kirk or whatever, and people on there saying, when do we get to use the guns? And when you see Tim Pool talking about like the next fucking American Civil War, and you see Nick Fuentes on there talking about how he like hates Jewish people and he hates black people and how Nazis weren't bad. There's nothing wrong with being a Nazi, and how he was fascinated with Adolf Hitler when he was a small kid and this kind of shit. Right, and you see Sean Hannity and stuff talking about how there's an invasion at the southern border, and that they're going to come and steal your jobs and rape all your rape your daughters or whatnot. And every single right-wing insane person screaming about fucking sex trafficking, when in real life they don't actually give a shit about sex trafficking. It's just all a ploy there. You're very much influenced by these things. Very much seems like that is another piece to the puzzle here. It's just not all about mental health. It's mental health plus radicalization, and that's what leads to mass shootings. Because you never just see someone who's just like schizophrenic going on a mass shooting. No, they have to have another motive. If you're just schizophrenic, you don't end up, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be violent, right? That's not the case. It's like you need, there's another catalyst involved. Because that's what we see over and over and over and over again. From everything from the fucking Batman movie theater shooting to all of these shootings, and the shooting of Buffalo, the one where the guy drove to a grocery store just so he could kill black people. The Las Vegas shooting where that guy was shooting out the window, killed 50 people at a country music festival. Every single one of them, it's like mental illness plus right-wing radicalization equals mass shooting. It's just that formula has just proven itself time and time again. And it looks like it's proven itself again this time. Because this guy, Robert Card, seems to be completely just obsessed with right-wing influencers. So let's turn on the laptop again. This is from Reddit. The Lewiston, Maine mass shooter's now deleted Twitter profile shows an obsession with far-right influencer accounts, liking posts from Jordan Peterson, Cat Turd, Ben Shapiro, and the Babylon Bee, which are all insane right-wing people. I have another one here for you. This is actually a screenshot of his account before it was banned, so we can turn this one off. Here's a screenshot of his Twitter account before it got banned. Right, so you can kind of see, here's Robert Card. This is the guy. He's posting stuff about economics here. He's posting from Kevin McCarthy. President Biden has already caused record inflation. Let's scroll back up. He's posting Tucker Carlson stuff. The trans movement, it turns out, is the mirror image of Christianity and therefore its natural enemy. This is this Twitter stuff. Of course, Donald Trump reposting that. Reposting Dinesh D'Souza. Assault weapons ban. Will cars kill more people? Of course, that's a bullshit fucking argument right there. You can't sneak a car into a movie theater and murder 17 people with it. Of course. You know, cars weren't designed to fucking kill people. Guns were. Dinesh D'Souza's a goddamn moron. Another one. Jim Jordan. How do you hide Biden's banking chaos and record high grocery prices? Indict his political opponent, of course. And Kevin McCarthy again, talking about the IRS and all that. So, yeah, we definitely know that's where his political leanings were at. Here's another article here from Heavy.com talking about Robert Card's political leanings. His Twitter account shows likes on politics. You can scroll down. Robert Card, the person of interest in the mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine on October 25th, 2023, liked a number of political posts on X, formerly known as Twitter. Heavy reviewed the page shortly before suspended by X. It shows that Card followed and or liked posts by X CEO Elon Musk and Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, as well as a professor who studies terrorism and a number of prominent conservative politicians and pundits, including Donald Trump Jr., Tucker Carlson. He also liked and shared posts by CNBC as well as posts on finance. Card was found deceased of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In March, he liked a tweet by Trump that read, "Given the incredible rise of trans, non-binary mass shooters in the last couple years, by far the largest group committing as a percentage of the population, maybe rather than talking about guns, we should be talking about lunatics pushing their gender affirmation bullshit on our kids." That, of course, is a lie. There have been exactly one trans mass shooter. One. The other four, no, were not trans. One of them was the son of the porn star who went on a mass shooting who said he was non-binary as a troll. That guy wasn't. Right. There's been exactly one. And it was this one that shot up a Christian school or whatever and had a manifesto which has not been released. That, I can't remember his name at this point, but it was basically, that's the person that all of the right-wing people are focused on, saying that, oh, all the mass shooters are trans. It's like, not true at all. In real life, the by far largest percentage of mass shooters come from a right-wing conspiracy theory sort of mindset. That is absolutely true. Okay. Card's X page was at Robert blah blah blah. Heavy recorded video of Card's post like. Heavy recorded a video of Card's post likes. Okay, well, I don't know. Should we watch this? Let's watch the video. Let's watch the video. So, okay, there's no audio. So you can kind of see this is the stuff that he liked. We got the Babylon Bee. We got riots in France. We got Tucker Carlson. We got Donald Trump Jr. We got Kevin McCarthy. Okay, let's scroll down some more. Come on, man, scroll down. Okay, I know they're going all super slow so that we can see it. Thank you so much. Babylon Bee. Okay, Dinesh D'Souza there. I see Jim Cramer. I see Elon Musk. I see Jim Jordan. See Kevin McCarthy again. Jim Cramer. Looks like there's lots of stuff about finance. I guess he was probably into this because he was like one of those sort of predicting the collapse of the global economic system kind of conspiracy theorist guys. Right? So you get the point, folks. We don't have to go through all of these things. End wokeness. That's another real famous Twitter troll who posts things like lots of racist crap, anti-vaccine kind of bullshit. We've talked about him before in previous streams. Okay, so you get the point. The guy was a rabid, insane conservative. Got another thing for you. Here's another video that I want to show you guys. But for this one, since this is an actual video, we should make it a little smaller so I don't get my channel kicked. This is from NBC News, talking to a resident that actually knew of him and knew of his family and lived in the same town as him, and basically said that people knew that he was crazy and they all stayed away from him. Let's see what he's got to say.
You grew up near Robert Card and his family.
Hmm.
Can you
I
tell
did.
us anything you know about the person of interest in these shootings?
Well, I grew up about half a mile or half mile away. Bowdoin is a very interesting community. There's kind of like a center hub near the school and the town store, excuse me. And then you have like West Bowdoin, but they all interconnect around the school and the town store, and I just happen to live near there. And the family complex, it's basically a compound. They're the family and Robert, they're all gun fanatics. They are, they, for all intents and purposes, are very much associated with right wing militias. It's known in the town to stay away from them and to not approach them. If you see them, you just turn around and walk.
Right wing militias, huh? Haven't seen any evidence of that yet, but it doesn't surprise me at all. We haven't seen like anything in any of the news articles about this guy. But yeah, does not surprise me at all. Right wing militias that, you know, kind of goes the militia movement in general is extremely racist. Sort of grew out of an anti civil rights kind of movement in the late 60s and early 70s. We actually did a stream about the history of the militia movement some years back, about 3 years ago or so. I did a 2 hour stream on it. And it's very, very interesting. But its origins are intrinsically linked with far right wing extremism, religious conservatism, and basically racism. Groups like the KKK and stuff like that. That's where the militia movement in this country came from. So a lot of the militia people try to tell you that, oh, we're not racist. We have black members and we have Latino members and all that stuff. Yeah, well, maybe. But in the beginning, that's where the shit came from, right? And a large portion of the militia people in this country now, it's like they're white supremacists. That's where it came from. That's where that movement was birthed from. And that movement has a lot of overlap with white supremacist groups in this country. So far, I haven't seen much to say that to show that this guy Robert Card was a racist or a white supremacist or anything like that. But it would not surprise me. Just put it that way. Anybody who is seriously super involved in conservative politics like this, chances are 9 times out of 10 that they're involved in the white supremacist sort of angle, right? The white supremacist branch of conservative politics too. It's sort of like that's like an open secret in between like all of the in conservative politics in general. It's sort of like an open secret that nobody really talks about. That a large amount of the support they get is from racists and racists and white supremacists and white nationalists and shit like that. And they just don't, they never mention it. And they always condemn it, especially when it comes to the politicians. They always condemn it. I had nothing to do with any of these people, blah, blah, blah. You know, all this other shit, right? They always try to condemn it and they never acknowledge that thing. But in real life, they know that's where it comes from. And that's why these people are always putting, dog whistles. I mean, look at fucking Ron Paul and Ron Paul Jr. and shit like that. Constant fucking dog whistles, right? Because they know that that's where their base is, right? And a lot, yeah, the conservative politicians, they know that's their base. Their base is the white supremacist sort of branch of the GOP. And so they're always playing footsie with these people, right? Trying to push it as far as they possibly can. And it's only really been in the last couple of years where some of them have just straight out embraced these guys. Marjorie Taylor Greene going and speaking at Nick Fuentes's group, for example, or Donald Trump saying, "Oh, there's good people on both sides at Charlottesville," right? It's only been in the last decade or so where the right wing, the GOP has pushed the Overton window so far to the right that they feel comfortable just acknowledging that that these people are out there and that they exist, and acknowledging them and not immediately returning their donations and stuff when they get found out, that kind of thing. So it's really kind of fucked up. Anyway, moving on.
Walk away. I remember going to the town store when I was a kid, about, oh gosh, around 12, 14. And I remember very vividly, it's just been the image that's been kind of going ahead and around in my head. is I'm going to the store and there's a way station there for deer. So he had just killed a deer with his buddies, and the deer was hanging and blood was dripping on the ground from the deer, and he was covered in blood with a gun on his back with a giant grin on his face. And they were all smoking cigarettes and drinking their morning coffee and like praising each other. And also they would shoot guns all the time. Like you could hear them every day after school. It was like clockwork. You could hear them shooting guns, and it would the sound would ricochet up the valley. I could even hear it at elementary school. At times, you could hear them shooting guns.
Liam, real quickly here, we only have a few seconds, but this is a close-knit community. Do you have friends?
Yep, what I'm hearing here, I mean, I hate to say it, but it fits the stereotype to a T, doesn't it? Right-wing crazy guy who is obsessed with guns, also obsessed with hunting. These things go hand in hand. You know, eventually goes off and becomes a mass shooter. It's like, who would have thunk it? Huh, folks? I mean, dang, you say stereotypes are, they're stereotypes for a reason, but some of those fucking things are, I don't know, some of them seem to fit. At least they do in this instance.
Friends who you know were injured last night?
Yes, there are some friends of mine that have been injured. I know there was a baby that was killed at the bowling alley. It was a children's bowling night. So I do know that happened. I'm not going to give any information out until the police officially release the names. But there's going to be a lot of heartache and tragedy that comes from this.
Well, Liam, Kent, we appreciate you taking some time. Continue to stay safe, and we'll make sure to check back in with you, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's heartbreaking, folks, right? It really is heartbreaking. And what's really, really, really heartbreaking about it is that nobody will fucking do anything about it. So here's another thing I want to show you here. This is Robert Card's search history. Somebody found this and leaked it onto Reddit. And you can kind of see his search history from, I think this is his search history from Twitter, just specifically in Twitter. And we can kind of see what he was looking for, right? So what do we got here? We got Musk quotes. We got Elon Musk, Lib Fails. That's one of those Twitter accounts where they just post like funny pictures of SJWs and stuff, the girl with the pink hair, screaming or whatever, stuff like that. Benny Johnson, Unusual Whales, no idea what that is. Lib Fails. Dr. Eli David, that's another right-wing guy. Ben Shapiro, Speaker McCarthy. Jim Jordan. Jordan Peterson. Okay. Fight Haven. Not sure what that is, but if I had to guess, I would say it's probably a Twitter account that posts pictures and videos of black people fighting. If I had to guess, that's probably what it is. Like I said previously in other streams, that just seems to be a very, very common thing out there on Reddit, on Twitter, on Facebook. Entire accounts where all they do is just post pictures of black people fighting in order to radicalize white supremacists, right? I wouldn't doubt that's what Fight Haven is. Elon Musk, Trump train 47th, proud patriot. Elon Musk, Jim Cramer, that's another guy, Speaker McCarthy again. Tim runs his mouth. I wonder what that is. Brett Weinstein, and wokeness. Right. So you can kind of see, this is the kind of shit this guy was interested in. It is a little undeniable that this guy is, of course, a right-wing, insane, patriot, wannabe fucking person. Do want to say one thing here, though, because the reason why I say it's undeniable is because, of course, the right wing is trying to deny it. You're seeing things like this all over the place. Let me turn this back on. This is from Ford's from Clanma, which is one of my favorite subreddits where I get to go and look at all the racists and shit. Bad dog. Guns is the dog. Shootings, of course, broken China. But what are they really blaming mass shootings on? They're blaming it on atheism. I would like to see some data behind that. That atheists are responsible for any mass shootings, because it just seems like every single mass shooting that we see is from an insane right-wing crazy person who is radicalized by people like fucking Charlie Kirk and Tim Pool and Jim Jordan and all these other people. Seems like that. And those people tend to be very, very super religious. I mean, the further right you are, the more likely you are to be a hardcore conservative Christian. I don't see anything online or anywhere in real life about atheists engaging in mass shootings. That doesn't really seem to be a thing. If anything, atheists tend to be people that speak out against gun violence. They tend to be, the more likely you are to be an atheist, the more likely you are to be in favor of things like gun control, right? I mean, shit. That's just how so I don't understand how this shit works. This is just some kind of, I don't know, just blame everybody except the people who are actually fucking in charge. Speaking of, since we're posting memes, there's one more meme that I do want to show to you guys. I don't even know who this is. Leslie 007. She's just some random person on Twitter. But this kind of stuck with me. Okay. Gay people aren't shooting up straight nightclubs. Black people aren't shooting up white grocery stores. Latinos are not shooting up Walmarts. Jewish people are not shooting up Christian churches. The violence is coming from one demographic, alt-right radicalized men. I have no idea who Leslie is, but she has 100% correct here. She is completely, absolutely correct. And I'm thinking I might look her up on Twitter just so I can follow her, because this is absolutely spot on, in my opinion. Because it's true. When was the last time a gay person went out and shot up a straight nightclub and killed 50 people? When was the last time a black person drove 200 miles to a grocery store just to kill white people? When did that happen? When was the last time a Latino guy went to a Walmart and shot up a bunch of white people because he was afraid they were stealing his jobs? When was the last time a Jewish person went into a church and shot up a bunch of people because he thought that there was a Christian conspiracy, a Christian cabal of evil Christian space lizards that was controlling the entire fucking earth? It doesn't happen. We need to stop bullshitting ourselves, right? We seriously need to. We need to actually look and see where the problem is coming from, who's fucking responsible for it, and do something about it. All right? And it's going to have to come from us. Our politicians aren't going to fucking do anything about it, right? As long as the country is divided and the conservatives and racists and Republicans, as long as they're in control of one or more parts of the government, nothing is ever going to get done. Okay. I don't even think, I'm kind of thinking like it's impossible to get any kind of relief at a federal level. Just forget it. We shouldn't even concentrate on that, I don't think. I think we should concentrate at the state level. State by state. I think we need to go state by state, and we need to pass comprehensive gun reform. And I think one thing that we need are red flag laws that actually will take away someone's guns if they trip too many fucking red flags. Okay? Here's the thing, folks. Maine doesn't have anything like that at all. Maine is like an extremely friendly state when it comes to gun rights. They don't have background checks. They don't have, there's no like sort of like any kind of red flag type laws at all. So even if this guy actually was a mental health, nutcase and was committed and all that shit and was threatening people and got arrested, even if all that shit happened, they still wouldn't have took his guns away because there's no law in Maine saying that you're allowed to do that. Those red flag laws. I think there's a red flag law in California, and like a couple of other blue states have them. Places, red states, of course, you're not going to get that shit at all. Maine is a blue state. They don't have anything like that either. So it's like, there you go. There's a perfect example right here where if the proper law was in place that said, okay, you're having mental health issues, you've self-reported some things, you've made threats, These are all things that should go into a database. And then if you trigger too many goddamn flags, the cops come and they confiscate your weapons. This is, and I believe this is an acceptable limit on the rights. Because, when they say, okay, yeah, you have a Second Amendment right. Yes, you do. According to the Constitution, you have a right to own a gun. But there's limits on rights. And every conservative will tell you there are limits on rights as well. You know why? Because they're perfectly fucking acceptable to have limits on the right to vote. They're perfectly fucking happy to have that. They're perfectly fucking, happy to have limits on the right to free assembly and the right of free speech and, all that shit. They'll completely just take that fucking away. They don't care about any of that stuff. They're absolutely fine putting limits on those rights. But when it comes to the Second Amendment, oh no, you better not touch it. You'll have to peel the gun out of my cold, dead fucking hand. All right? So fuck them. We need to do it without them is what I'm trying to say. Right? We need to actually get out there, elect people, pass laws, and because it's never gonna fucking happen unless we do it. This is it. This is why we keep having mass shootings, because nobody fucking does anything about them, right? Because we're relying on politicians who will not do anything about it, because half of the federal government is beholden to the gun lobby industry. And then the other half are beholden to fucking insane right-wing crazy people who will fucking threaten them with death threats and shit if they try to put common sense gun law legislation in place. Common sense stuff. Okay? Things like background checks, right? Like a fucking red flag thing. If you this guy went, threatened a fucking military base, threatened to kill them, right? Was telling his friends and family he was hearing voices. Okay? I mean, if you can't do something, if you can't take away someone's gun when they're making fucking threats, then what the fuck is the point of any of this shit? I mean, there you go, right there. You would very well think that would be the line. When that's the other thing conservatives say. Well, what's the line? Right? Well, we just take it away from everybody who's no, you don't just take it away from anyone who gets arrested or anyone who is going to have therapy or something like that. No. Right? You create an intelligent, well-informed, a law that's well-informed, that respects people's rights and protects people at the same time. How come we can't fucking do that? We can do it, all right? I don't know the particulars, okay? Sit down, I'm not a lawyer. Figure it out, all right? I just want somebody to do something. That's what I want, okay? Somebody please fucking do something, all right? Because this is all I'm hearing is excuses, excuses, excuses. We can't do it because of this. We can't do it because of that. And I'm not, here's the other thing. I'm not going to completely 100% blame this on people on the right wing either, because there's plenty of people on the left wing who are opposed to gun control too, right? You'll get it from people like anarchists, stuff like that. People who claim that, even pro-trans people who claim that, oh, well, we need guns to defend ourselves from the right wing, from the Proud Boys and stuff. Yes, okay, you do. But no one will take their guns away. It's... Just because someone passes a law designed to protect people from mass shooters with schizophrenia, with mental health issues, who go out and threaten people, that doesn't mean the Gestapo is going to show up at your house and steal away all your guns. I don't see why we can't balance these things. How come we can't have intelligent gun control policy that protects people, which also preserves gun rights? We can do that. It's not either or. Okay? Other countries on this fucking planet do that. We're not the only country on Earth where you're allowed to own a gun. You can have a gun in Canada. You can have a gun in pretty much every country in South America. You can have guns, right? They don't have mass shootings in those countries, okay? I mean, yes, there's lots of gun crime and stuff in South America, in particular Brazil, but what you don't get are, insane people going into bowling alleys and just murdering people left and right for no reason. The gun violence there has to do with crime and cartels and shit. Canada, you can have all the guns you want too. They don't have mass shooters in Canada. It happens once. We have it every fucking week. And here's the other thing about it, right? We barely hear about mass shootings anymore, don't we? When it's a busy news week and there's a mass shooting, it's it might get a mention, right? We don't really hear about mass shootings in this country unless a lot of people get killed. And that's the truth, right? We heard about it this time because 18 people were killed. But I can guarantee you, in the last 3 weeks, there's been multiple mass shootings where only a few people, 2 or 3 people got killed. And we never heard about it. You know why? Because that's not good enough anymore. It's not sensational enough anymore. People don't care. They're like, oh, only 3 people died? Ah, fuck it. Who gives a shit? They won't even put that shit on the news anymore. All right? Because it happens so often in this country. Somebody please fucking do something about this. Okay? Can we please just agree, no matter what your politics are, no matter who you fucking vote for, no matter what you believe, what your religion is, what your fucking race is, can we all just please agree that that we need to fucking do something about mass shootings? Can we please agree? I mean, is it possible for us to do that as Americans? Can we come together just this one time and do something about kill crazy madmen running around with fucking like machine guns? Can we please do something about that? I mean, is it really it? Are we just incapable as a country of doing something about this easily solvable problem that every other fucking country on Earth has managed to solve except for us? Can we do something about this, please?
Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.